Coming up, Mariners baseball with Brad Adam. You know him, you love him, he knows best. Tune in, let's go. All right, welcome back to Client's Corner. Best place to get your news, knowledge, and action anywhere from TVs, books, movies, and more. It's been a while since I've had the podcast, but the Mariners season wrapped up about a little less than a month ago. So we're ready to get back and talk about them because there was a lot of highs and lows during the season. That's a nice way to put it. But we got none other than Brad Adam, sports anchor. He knows baseball better than anyone I know. So he's coming on and we're going to talk a little baseball. How you doing, Brad?
Jake, I'm doing well. Yeah, it's a nice way to put the season. Ups and downs. I like that. It's good. I'm going
Ups,
to use that when they ask me about it.
ups and downs. At least that's what I tell myself in the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's painful to watch these
I mean,
playoffs. It's
yeah.
I always don't watch the first round or two by the AL and NLCS. I'll get sucked back in and I'll watch a little World Series, but it's just tough when you look at these guys and you look at the teams, you're like, man, like the Tigers have one starter,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he's the best, but they have one. And then every game's a bullpen day. Cleveland does bullpen days. Hell, the Dodgers do bullpen day. It's like they don't have starters. And that's what the Mariners have. So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
definitely have some
yeah,
notes on that for sure.
yeah. Oh,
Uh,
okay. Am
I'm
I
I'm happy.
jumping
I'm
ahead
happy.
there? Sorry. Am I
No,
jumping
you're good.
ahead?
I'm talking about players. I'm happy because I'm a Mets fan too. My dad grew up.
Oh.
He's a
Oh,
diehard
he grew
Mets
up.
fan.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah. He grew
Okay.
up in New York.
Okay.
Yeah. His favorite player of all time are Willie Mays and Tom Seaver. So,
Nice.
I like to think that the baseball gods took the Mariners as a sacrifice, so the Mets could go to the NLCS.
Okay. I like that. Now, is your dad a Yankee fan too? You got to just be
Heck
Mets or
no,
Yankees, right? Okay, good.
just Mets, just Mets. I
Yeah,
mean,
Mets. Yeah, they're surprisingly doing it. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
look. I mean, it's just October baseball. That's what
Yeah.
you gotta. It's just clutch. I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Baseball is just a sport where it's just anything can
Right.
happen. I would
Exactly.
say that and hockey probably are
Yeah.
like
And a
the two
short,
most
short
like.
series. Yeah.
Yeah, anything can happen. Yeah, it's been exciting for the Mets. Like when the Mets came to play the Mariners, I rooted for the Mets all three games.
You scored one run in 3 games.
Yeah, I got the one time I
Total
don't root for the
domination.
Mariners.
Right. That was like the high point of the year, right? I mean,
Yeah,
after that weekend, that Sunday night baseball, right? During the City Connects, they win like what was it, like 11-1 or something crazy. They sweep the Mets. You're
yeah,
like,
and in the
this team's
weekend before
rolling.
that, they took two out of three from the Phillies too.
Yeah. Dominate the NL East. And now I mean, that was the high point. And then the next day, they get just boat raced
Is that
in
by the
Detroit.
Detroit?
Detroit.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
started that 1-8 trip at cost services job and JD, the hitting coach. I mean, it just crazy just how high they were and then just crash and burn. And then here comes Dan Wilson and Edgar to save the day, and they did a great job in the last 34 games. It
they
was
did.
fun to watch, fun to be around those guys. So I'm looking forward to like a full off season with Dan. I'm looking forward to seeing him kind of set the staff, kind of go and then go into a spring training and have a full off season under his belt. Because I mean, he was just thrown into the fire. I
Yeah,
mean, it was just like, hey, can you be manager? Yeah, when? Tomorrow? What? Yeah, okay. So boom, there he goes. Um, and that's cool. His first game was that walk-off win over the
yeah.
Giants, which was cool. But I'm encouraged, obviously, and I'm excited to see what, you know, he can do over a whole off season and a whole season. So
Yeah, I was gonna bring up
yeah.
those guys later, but we can just jump in it right now. What kind of difference maker do you think Dan Wilson and Edgar bring to the table versus Service and JD before that?
I don't know if I want to compare the two to the other two. I just know that Dan is, he's been around since when did he come here? 93, I think the trade was, right? I think with the Reds. I think 93. And, in some capacity, he was working a little bit with us broadcasting, but he's also, roving instructor. catching instructor. He'd go to the minor leagues and see people. He managed a fe's games in Tacoma, so he's around in spring training. So everybody knew Dan, and so that made the transition really seamless, and everybody likes Dan. You say that about some people, but I mean, everybody likes Dan. You can't find a person who doesn't or has a bad thing to say about Dan. So him coming in and just a kind of a calming voice and presence, um, well respected. Everybody likes him. He knows the players. He knows the organization. He's been here for decades. Lives here year round. He never moved from when he played. So I think that was huge. And having Edgar was huge. I think for an old school guy like me, it was somewhat refreshing to have those guys look at more than just the analytics, look at more than just numbers and this and that. Because when they played, they didn't have all the analytics.
Hmm.
It certainly helps now. There's definitely a place for them, no doubt. But I also like them saying, hey, with two strikes, put the ball in play. I don't care what your launch angle is. You need to flatten your bat, get it longer through the zone, give yourself a better chance of hit, think up the middle, and look for a certain pitch, have a plan, and do damage. And they did that the last 34 games. They're one of the best offenses in baseball the last 34 games. So whatever the messaging was from Edgar and Dan, it worked. I mean, I think they were the second best record to the Tigers over that time. I, I think.
In
Um,
September,
yes.
yeah, they
So,
had, yeah, no, because they had
which
a
is
264 batting average in September, which was the fourth highest in the league.
right,
So
but all the other numbers too, the on base, the slug, um, eh, all of that was huge. Runners in scoring position, 2 out RBI. I mean, the average runs went up to like 5 a game, and they were
yeah,
second to third to last, and I mean, it just clicked with a lot of these guys. So again, that's why I'm kind of hoping that they have an off season. Edgar's going to be back next year. We don't know what capacity. I don't think it'll be a full time 162 game hitting instructor. I think they'll hire a hitting instructor and have Edgar help, at home and some certain dates and stuff. But there's a lot to like, obviously, with how they finished. They were obviously
hmm
short to Houston again, but Houston's got major problems. And then the wild card, the Central, was just too good. I mean, the Twins were collapsing. It was great to see. Royals tried, but they snuck in there. So another year short, and that's why I think this off season will be really telling and really important for the organization.
yeah. I mean, they got a lot of young guys. They have the best farm system in baseball, according to the Bleacher Report. They have about seven guys in the top 100, at
Mhm.
least seven guys. Like Cole Emerson, he's playing great. So those guys, so all the, I mean, I trust the Mariners' development because look at especially pitching. Like, look, I mean, we
Right.
can jump into it. Let's talk about the rotation. Holy smokes, unreal this year! Just the pure domination from those guys. In the words of Ric Flair, you gotta say "woo" for Brian Woo because he
No
honestly
doubt.
down the stretch of the year he looked like the Mariners' best pitcher. He
He
didn't
did.
qualify for like being a stat leader because of it didn't he had 22 games started, but finished season with 2.89 ERA would have been lower, but the Yankees blew him up
Hmm.
um, that in that one series, down from a 4.21 in 2023 ERA when he played 20 games. He had a 76.8% left on base percentage. He just looked really, really good and just looked
Yeah.
calm and all those guys did. I mean Castillo, he looked a little bit rocky at first, gave up a lot of home runs, but he picked it up. He really picked it up.
Right.
Um, yeah,
I mean, the
what
thing
did
with,
you?
yeah, I mean, you're right. The thing with them is just health. Wu missed a little
Hmm.
bit, and then Castillo missed the last 2 weeks. But
Hmm.
you had what, three guys make 32 starts, and Castillo was close to 30. And you said Wu was what, a 21, 22?
Yeah,
That
22.
that's impressive, and Hancock was pretty good when he pitched. He was like 11 or 12 starts. So that rotation is just scary good. And it would have been fun to watch in the playoffs, right? Because I remember talking to Pete Woodworth, the pitching coach, And usually, in the first round, it's that wild card round, best two or three, right? So you don't have or you don't need all your starters on the playoff roster. All right. You go with your top three, and
Yeah.
then, you bring in bats and some situational guys, maybe so, more bullpen arms, right? And he said, we would take them all. Why wouldn't we? And I said, well, I don't, how would would you bring him in out of the pen? He said, yeah, think about this. Think if, we go Logan for five and then bring in Woo. Like, damn, right? Or, the next start, Castillo for five or six. Here comes Bryce Miller out of the pen,
Oh my
right? So it's
God.
like, can you imagine? Yeah. Other teams are, piecing it together inning by inning, but these guys could go and pitch three, four, heck, five innings, So that would have been really fun to watch those guys in the postseason. The talk the last month was the offense was so bad this season that they were going to have to trade a pitcher to get some bats because the guys they've got in the minors are, a year or two away.
Hmm.
But then, and I was on board saying, you're probably right. Who's it going to be? It's going to be Gilbert because he makes the most in arbitration. Or is it going to be Miller? Or is it going to be Woo because he's kind of injury prone, maybe? And you think that might be a case with him. Or can somebody take Castillo's money? Um, but now I'm thinking, you know what? After what the offense did, like we talked about the last month, I don't know if they need to trade one of those starters to get a
Hmm.
bat. They've got some holes to fix, and maybe they could do that through free agency or trade the system. You mentioned the system is top five throughout baseball, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
they didn't give up a lot of guys to get
mm-mm.
like when they got Randy, Justin Turner, and
No, yeah. So I mean, that's an option there to trade some of those younger guys to get major league bats now. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like I said, it'll be interesting off season. If they do trade a pitcher, if they don't, how are they going to fix the offense? It was a great finish, like I said, but they got a big time questions right at first base, second base, third base. Are you sold on Rosarena and Robles, I guess, as your outfielders? Backup catcher, DH. I mean, is that going to be Garver? So, I mean, a lot to think about this offseason because you don't want to waste this opportunity, right? This window
hmm
you have with these starters being relatively inexpensive. They're all going to get raises this year, but still, Wu and Miller are still going to make the minimum, right? Kirby's going to make, I don't even know, maybe three or something million. Gilbert's going to make the most at, I don't know, I'd have to look at the numbers, but he was, I don't know, 5'6". So
yeah.
only guy you're paying is Castillo. So this is the time. Take
And Castillo's
advantage.
not that even. I mean, it's not like it's a huge overpay for Castillo. Like
No.
it's a fine contract.
Yeah, he's got what, three and I think 72 left.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, 24-ish a year, which you're right, which is crazy for us to think about, but like 24 million. I'll never see that in my life. But you're right, in Major League Baseball for an ace, and he can still be a number one pitcher. Um, it's not terrible. You're right.
Yeah, I mean they tied with the Braves with the lowest ERA in baseball at um 2 point sorry 3.49. So all those
Mhm.
guys were amazing. It's crazy to think that they had the lowest ERA but had the second lowest average with
Yeah.
224 just
Most strikeouts.
point yeah. Um Actually, but at least they were on pace for the most strikeouts of all time, but they didn't hit that.
They
So
slowed it down with
they
Edgar.
slowed
Yeah.
it down. Yeah.
Slowed it down.
But yeah, it's just crazy that they were point zero zero three percent percentage away from
Mhm.
tying having the lowest batting average to the White Sox, who finished with
Oh man.
121
How
losses,
about
which is
those
actually
guys?
crazy. So
Most of all
imagine it's
time,
like,
they beat your Mets, right? 121 losses,
yeah, it's
which
just
is
crazy to
hard
think
to
like
do.
if that average was at least like
Yeah, just middle of the
245,
pack. Yeah,
yeah, how many
just
more wins do you
put
have?
them 15th in baseball, right?
Yeah.
How many more wins? Exactly. You only need a few more to get in, and then anything goes as you're seeing this year, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's what the Tigers are doing. I mean, they sold at the deadline. They sold Flaherty to the Dodgers, right? They got
Yeah.
rid of some other guys, and they're like, "You've got young players. We're going to play them, develop them." And then they just started to click. They just, Scooble was Scooble, the
Triple
best.
crown.
Yeah. Yeah, he and Sale. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Um,
Yeah, Sale so good. His
oof,
WAR was crazy.
yeah. And then
Um,
and then they're just riding this momentum, and when they take out the Astros, that had to be pretty sweet for AJ Hinch, no doubt. And then they got Game 5 with the Guardians. It's like doing it again with one pitcher and a bunch of bullpen and a bunch of young players that nobody knows about, but
mhm.
they're just hot and they're feeling it and just momentum and they're in and you just never know, man.
I mean,
Crazy.
yeah, that's base. I mean, momentum's everything in sports, but I've
Yeah.
noticed. Well, I mean, maybe I just kind of focusing on baseball more, but momentum's everything. I mean, you look at the Cubs in 2016; they were down
Hmm.
1-3, and then they came back and just won 3 games. And I mean, you've
Hmm.
been around a lot longer than I am, but from World Series standpoint, that's probably the best I've ever seen. Mostly because the Cubs waited over 100
Yeah.
years to win a World Series. And also, like
Yeah.
Game 7 was just phenomenal with the rain delay and the extra
Hmm.
innings. And yeah, so and then Ben Zobrist just being a goat for the Cubs
Yeah.
too.
For sure. Yeah, Red Sox, same thing when they broke their streak and curse.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
mean that
anybody,
ALCS was crazy. Four wins in a row.
yeah, down
Great 30
3-0.
for
Like,
30 on that.
wow. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's why we're hoping that they can get in, and do some damage and see how it looks because everybody changes, like we've talked about. Everybody changes how they play, how they manage in the postseason. I mean, even the Dodgers do that. I mean, they don't have any starters going more than 4 innings, and then it's just bullpen. But it's like a panic move where we just don't trust anybody and we're throwing anybody out there because we have to win every game, you know.
Yeah.
But the
Also
Mariners, I
the
don't think I don't think would do that. I think they would just let their starters roll, and
Yeah, like most pitchers. I
it
mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like they at least go 90 per game, right?
right. But they don't even do
I
that in
mean,
the post.
from
It's weird. Cleveland, same thing. They pull their starters after 65 pitches. You're like, why? But they got the best bullpen in baseball, so I guess that does make sense. But it's hard to think that you can keep winning, round after round like this, with the bull just getting burned out. But we'll see. You know,
I mean, when the
we
when the Red Sox won, they had Pedro, Schilling. I don't think Beckett was there yet. Beckett came there into like 2007.
Yeah,
But
he was after, yeah. They
yeah,
had those
but I
two,
mean,
and I want to say they had somebody else, but they had starters, right? It's
yeah,
weird. The game just changes in the postseason, you know?
yeah, it does.
Uh,
It does, and like you said, momentum's everything. So we talked about some positives so far. What were like if you could put in three like your favorite highlights of the season? Highlights can be like,
Ooh.
player popping off or specific moments. Like what are your top three?
Oh man, that's a good question. I liked um I liked Logan and Munoz making the All-Star team, both first timers. I thought that was good because I mean Munoz had some good numbers, but Gilbert, I mean, look, what did he end with what? 8 or 9 wins, right? And
Yeah,
and it's
wasn't
funny to think about how good he was all season long, and he has 8 or 9 wins. So
yeah, and
I'm
he
glad, yeah, I'm glad the analytics and people realize how good he was. I mean, his whip was under one, low Ernie, 200 innings, 220 strikeout. I mean, what a season, right?
yeah.
So that was great to see kind of an evolution of yeah, young pitcher. And Munoz, well deserved as well. So seeing those guys make their first All-Star, that was pretty cool for me. Um, I think the last month, what a story about Victor Robles. Like, are you kidding me? The guy was DFA'd by the Nationals, who are terrible. So a bad team doesn't want you. So nobody wants you.
Yeah. That's
And what
saying
they did,
something.
that's saying something. And what the Mariners do is they're like, any first round pick, previous first round pick that's DFA'd, like, we'll take them because at some point, you know, an organization thought enough of this guy to make him a first round pick. So there has to be some talent there. It has to be something. So
Yeah,
they'll
he
bring
was a
him in.
very touted prospect coming in for
Yeah,
the
he
Nationals.
was number one. He was rated higher than Juan Soto when they were playing together and coming up
Mm.
together for the Nationals. So they took him in and they thought he could be, you know, defensive replacement, a right-handed bat. The offense was doing nothing. The outfield was doing nothing. And he struggled for a while, but then like just caught fire in the last month, working again with Edgar, but just getting back to, I guess, being him. And we saw, the bunts for hits, the stolen bases. Now
Yeah.
there are some bad moments with Victor because he's a little, excitable and kind of runs into some outs sometimes. So you got to take good
Yeah.
with bad, right? But man, I mean,
Even defensively too. Made some great plays
yeah,
defensively.
yeah, yeah. But to hit like 400 or something his last month, I mean, it's just amazing the season he put together from where he was to now, a 2-year deal. He's going to probably be the starting right fielder next year.
How
So
how
kudos to
how,
him.
how many stolen bases do you think he had in 77 games?
He had like 32,
He had 30, which is
30. Isn't that
crazy.
crazy? And he got
That's
thrown out what
crazy.
once? Was the only time he got thrown out was it when he tried to steal home
I think
against the
so.
Yankees? I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, stole like 11 for 11, stealing third. I mean, that's just crazy. So,
I mean, if you have 30
it,
stolen bases in 77 games,
wow.
he's
Now,
hitting. I
he
mean,
finished
I'm
over
not a math
300,
guy,
right?
but
No.
he
And
could
again,
get over
yeah.
40
Oh,
with
easy,
playing
easy. And again,
over.
it's easier to steal. I mean, the rules, there should be an asterisk,
Yeah,
with the way it is now, but still
definitely.
take advantage of it. And he's a guy that, the Mariners didn't have, a guy who uses his speed, energy, and gets after it. So, I mean, he was a great story at the end of the year. So I like those kind of stories. I'm trying to think of
And they extended
my
him and
third
have a
one.
team option for him in 2027,
Yeah,
which is
basically a 2-year deal, right?
yeah. I mean,
Cheap too.
he batted 328.
Yeah, think about
That's
that. That's
impossible for a
crazy.
Mariners hitter.
I know. um, Let me think. A third
That's a
high
my
point.
player mode right there for the
Yeah, I like
Mariners.
that. A third moment.
And just one more thing on him. What's
Yeah.
crazier is that T-Mobile's a pitcher's ballpark too. So to hit 320,
Well, yeah,
I haven't seen what his numbers are at home, but to have those numbers at
but
least playing.
no, you're right. But he's a guy who that's the type of hitter has success at T-Mobile. Yeah, doesn't hit home runs, right? Doesn't slug, doesn't try to, but puts the ball in play, uses the whole field, uses his speed, takes advantage of the outfield and the bigness of the park because it is very difficult to hit, as we know
Mhm.
that. But if you can put it in play, like an Ichiro or like somebody like a Victor, like and use your speed and bunt and you infield singles, and it's just, I mean, that's the type of player that will be successful at T-Mobile. Now, if you get a real slugger, like a Pete Alonso, can still homer
Or a
there,
Cal Raleigh
or a Cal Raleigh, still going to homer
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But the guys who, I mean, if Alonso comes, it'll be less, but still, I mean, they'll be able to homer. But a guys like, the 10 to 15 homer guy, who's not really a homer guy, you don't want him to try to homer. You don't want him to try to be somebody that he's not because it's
Do you,
never going to work at T-Mobile, you know?
is it based off of what you said? Do you think Julio had a lot of those moments this year like those? Because
I-
I watched a lot of games and the
Yeah,
dude was swinging for the
swing
fences.
for the, yeah. And I think it changed a little with Edgar, I think a little bit, it got a little more up the middle and right field and don't try to, you know, do damage on every swing. Now, if you're in a favorable count, if it's 2-0, 3-1, and you're thinking fastball and you want to just take a rip,
Hmm.
have at it, right? Absolutely. But when it's two strikes or when there's people on, you can't just be trying to homer. I think he figured that out at the end. I mean, it was a disappointing year for sure. I think we'll talk about him, later. But he finished strong like they all did with Edgar, and Dan. So that was cool. So I guess my third one, I guess, seeing Edgar and Dan and the success that they had, So guys that I've known a long time and like a lot, and it was cool to see them around and doing well and doing their thing. And um, again, excited about next year already.
Yeah.
I sound like Rick Riz. I'm always excited. Counting down to spring training, baby. That
I
guy's
uh,
the
I met
best.
I met Dan Wilson like the December of 2023 because Starbucks and Mariners did this charity event, and I got to
Okay.
go on the field at T-Mobile and play catch with him.
There you go.
Best he said, you're easy to play catch with. And I said, well, I got some experience. So
Yeah, nice.
yeah.
Do you
So
get to play anything or do anything? Take any
I
cuts?
took some ground balls.
Okay.
I threw some jeters a little to the side, then they'll jump
Little
up.
little jump throw.
Yeah, a little jump throw. Felt very good. Felt awesome actually.
That's cool. Yeah. And you
Yeah,
see,
he was
you can't. He's great, wasn't he?
yeah, super nice
See?
guy.
See? That's
I asked him
good.
about what did I asked him. I tried looking some like really deep, like old things up to try and throw him off. And I asked him if he still keeps pictures of any players that butts because of that. Have you seen that commercial?
With
It's
what?
it's Dan Wilson. It's every
Yeah.
time he's like, I like to. I forgot it was. When players are up to bat, I like to make sure I remember I know how they hit and stand. So I just take a picture. It's like McGuire's butt, like Sosa's butt,
Yeah. But
like all
yeah.
those guys.
Yeah. That's good. He liked that, huh?
Yeah, he was like, wait, oh yeah, yeah. No, I don't keep those
Hmm.
anymore.
No.
But yeah, it was just funny to I just like throwing people off just to see, not ask them, regular boring
Exactly.
questions.
Nice job. That's key. I've taught you that.
Yeah.
We'll just go with that I taught
Yeah,
you.
and so
But that's
because I
smart.
mean
Good for you.
that's why I don't really watch First Take, and I mean I like Get Up because I like Greeny a lot. I
Does
think Greeny's
anybody
good.
watch that? I don't know if anybody watches that
It's just a
stuff.
lot of yelling.
Yeah.
Like what was
I
the
don't need
joke?
that.
I tweeted. I said if Otani wins in the playoffs, how does that affect LeBron's legacy? Just stuff like just yeah yeah.
That's
It's just a
funny.
lot of clickbait.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna. All right, so we talked about the bullpen, Robles, all those awesome things, Dan and Edgar coming on, but I mentioned his name earlier. I think we got to give Cal Raleigh some credit too, for
Yeah.
sure. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
he
should have
batted
had
280.
Cal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
As my top
218
stories.
on
Yeah.
the stats don't say a lot, but I mean, they kind of 34 home runs. It was, I think, I got
100
best moment,
RBI. 100 RBI.
100 ribbies. Best moment probably was he needed 3 home runs to beat Piazza's record for most home runs.
Yeah. First
Um,
4 years.
first 4 years, and he did it Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Awesome. Yeah. And his 100th RBI last game. That was awesome. And he
Yeah,
catches more games and innings than anybody in baseball. Leads the league in catchers caught stealing again. His framing numbers are great. Power numbers are great. I mean, good chance he goes Gold Glove and Silver Slugger. I mean, this is,
yeah.
and
I
he's
think,
he's becoming a leader. Captain of the team. I mean, he's just handles the staff so well. It's just he is awesome. Unfortunately, he's a Scott Boras client, right? Because you would want. I mean, I would ask him every day to sign. I try every day to sign that guy. I mean, he is. I mean, that's the guy, right?
yeah.
That's the guy. So
I think he's a top
Let's
three
hope.
player and
Oh,
top three catcher.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
but he's very clutch too.
Yeah, his power numbers later, great. You're right,
Hmm.
he's clutch. He's one guy where, you can people might complain and say, you know, people just slug nowadays, strike out a ton, batting average, that's the way the game is, and they don't like that. But he's the one guy who I say, I don't care what his average is. I don't care how many times he strikes out. Because like you said, he does damage and he does it in big, important moments, late
Huge.
inning and huge. And he's the guy that, pitchers don't want to see up there. He just has a knack for coming through in big moments. We saw it in the playoffs a couple of years ago, homering in Toronto to get things going. So yeah, I would, like I said, every day I'd call, say, can you sign? How's this deal? Can you sign? Will you sign? I would
Yes, Scott
not let
Boras
him
is
get
gonna
away.
squeeze everything out,
I
but
know, I know. He's gonna want him to get to free agency, but just, I mean, yeah, he's a dude. You need dudes, and he's a dude.
yeah. So I'm very glad we talked about Cal because he was such an important piece just in the
Oh,
past. I
the
mean,
MVP, without a doubt, the MVP of the team this year, no
you think
question,
so?
no question.
Yeah, I mean his WAR was he had a 5.4 WAR, which was the 15th highest in baseball. Um, so he was did pretty good. And just I mean, I didn't I wouldn't if you told me, oh, 93 home runs was for most out of catcher's 4 seasons in baseball, I would have been like, that's
Right.
no way.
Yeah.
No,
But think
but
about
it's
this too. His first year, he had two. So his last 3 years, what, at 92, right? Is that my math correct?
yeah,
And I think so. And I don't know what Piazza's numbers were like his first year, but Cal's first year when he came up and down and he couldn't hit, just two homers. So, I mean, basically 3 years to get the 92
yeah, and he also
homers.
wasn't one of two catchers to have back-to-back 30
Yes.
30 home run seasons.
Mm-hmm. 30 homer, and I think, and lead the league in caught stealing, catchers caught stealing.
So a little cool
So,
LeBron
yeah,
stat right there.
there you go.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
awesome this year. And just like the vibes he brings to the
Yeah. I
team.
mean, plays hurt, plays through everything, doesn't matter. Like I said, he plays more than any other catcher. DH when he's not catching. Those guys get days off. Cal doesn't. So he's just on it, man. So awesome to watch. Yeah, MVP for sure.
What do you think the Mariners need to focus on going into the offseason? We talked about managers like Dan Wilson. Is he for sure coming back?
Yes. Yes. He's the
So he'll
manager.
get
Yes.
time.
Yep.
Um, but we talked about how bad the hitting was. How important is hitting versus like do you put that is that in its own tier of itself as the number one important thing to look into in the offseason?
Yeah, I think you do. Again, depending on what you might do with your staff is solid. If you trade one, Hancock can slide in, or another one of the kids can slide into that fifth spot. I think he's would be just fine there. You're going to need to get some offense. You know, you're encouraged, right, with the last 5 weeks and what Edgar and Dan could do and help, but you still need some help. Like I mentioned, there's a couple positions that are open, and first and third are really traditional spots where you get some slug. Suarez is hitting 30 homers every year, driving in 100. And didn't have that at third this year. I haven't had much at first for a
Rojas was
while.
looking like that in April and
Yeah,
May, but
yeah, I know. And Ty France, has done well at first. It didn't happen this year. That he's DFA'd, he's in Cincy. Um, but I think Luke Raley will play some first next year. I like him and his power. I like him. He reminds me a lot of Cal.
he was
Guys that are
sneaky
just
clutch
yeah, he
a good amount
was.
of time.
Yeah, he's just like a dude. Just like a hardworking, just a gamer, right? He just
Yeah.
brings it. He and Cal. That's why they're became good friends because it's just he's a guy you want. And Turner's the same way. Justin Turner was great down the stretch
Oh, I mean,
talking with the guys and talking with Edgar and the team and helping out. And he was clutch too. And he's going to be 40. I don't know. I think he said he wants to come back and play. So that'd be great if it's here. That'd be great because the players loved him and they want him back. So that's some stuff at first. Polanco having knee surgery. Is he back at 12 million? That'd be hard to believe he'd be back at 12
yeah.
million. And so and is Garber just your backup catcher? So then you need a DH. So I mean, there's more holes on offense, but I will say the bullpen does need some help too.
Yeah.
They really struggled getting the ball to Munoz. Ryan Stanek wasn't that guy. Of course, he's with your Mets now, doing okay in the postseason. Um, I traded for Jimmy Garcia, who was hurt with Toronto when he was hurt here, so that
Yeah.
was no surprise, I guess. Gary Santos never pitched. Matt Brash obviously had Tommy John, so he never pitched. So it was Colin Snyder did well overall. He was a nice find for them, but they need to get a couple of high leverage, big time arms to help Munoz out there. So I think that's going to be they'll need to address some bullpen as well. But yeah, I think number one will be offense for sure.
Yeah. Definitely bullpen. Bullpen is huge because, like we talked about, freaking, the starting rotation would go like 2 hits, 0 runs, 8 Ks, do 7.5 innings, and then like that bullpen gives up a hit, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, and then no run support, and you're like, yep,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
a team wins 2-1, 1-0, or 2-1, and you're like, Mariners baseball. Mhm.
Mariners baseball. They're getting all Felixed out there. We've seen
Yeah,
this before, right?
exactly. That is a classic. I remember Felix. They were playing the Angels. Felix threw nine innings, one hit, and then the guy comes in, gives up a home run, and you're like,
Like, yeah, one
damn,
nothing. Like, dang. Yeah. Oh,
just
no. Yeah. That's why, again, this is, don't waste this rotation. Don't waste this time. This window you have, you know, doesn't come along very often unless you're
yeah.
willing to spend a
Especially
lot of
with the
money,
guys.
right?
This guy's still getting zero
Yeah,
money because
exactly.
it could just be, a whole nother marriage could just be the A's in the sense of they get these guys and they can't pay them.
Right. Let's
Matt
hope.
Olson, Matt Chapman.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I
Ramon
mean, just go
Laureano,
down the line.
yeah,
He's done okay.
he's
Had
done
some help.
okay.
Had some help.
I mean, Chris Davis with the K, he was really good for them. Marcus Simeon, Josh
What?
Donaldson. Josh Donaldson played
Just
catcher for him for
yeah,
the
right.
A's. Um,
Just on and on and on and on and on, right? All the
mhm.
pitchers. Well, yeah, but they're making money, so what do they care? The owner's terrible. I can't believe they're going to play in Sacramento. I still can't believe that MLB will let that happen.
I mean,
But
I mean,
that's the plan. Three
I don't know
years
if you're
there.
allowed to talk bad about Rob Manfred because he worked for MLB
I don't.
affiliate.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, hopefully he's not James Dolan. If we talk bad about him, he'll have our
Yeah.
faces recognized and we go into the
Just
stadium.
remember, like the commissioners work for the owners. Remember that though.
Yeah.
So, and the owners are all making a lot of money.
It's
So
just crazy because it's not
crazy,
that the
crazy.
A's, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, it's part of me, it kind of just reminds me of the Sonics leaving. Like it's so because it's just so defined with the city.
No, for
Because
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, they've all left them. Sad.
yeah.
The Raiders
Oakland,
left
the
them.
Raiders left,
The Warriors are in San
Warriors,
Francisco. That's just a kick in the gut, you know?
especially because they're like, okay, we're not going to leave. We're just going to go on the other side of
Yeah,
the city.
right. To the better side, right?
Yeah,
The big rivalry side and have this beautiful new arena on the water. See ya. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh
It's
well.
sad because I mean, Oakland is just this classic city.
Yeah.
They have a lot
Sports,
of rich
great
history.
fans. Yeah,
Hmm.
great fans.
I mean,
Diehards.
Oakland Raider fans are probably they probably travel the best in football and probably the most passionate fans that I've seen.
Hmm.
They definitely like their get-ups and like to dress up and go crazy for sure. I'll say that. It's just wild that the what am I John Fit no Fisher is it Steve no John Fisher? Is that the owner's name, right? Days.
God, is it John Fisher? I think
So
so.
yeah, that he just didn't want to play. He didn't when during COVID, he refused to pay any of the minor league players too.
Yeah. How terrible, right? They're just terrible.
It's just
And
sell
they're
the
making,
team.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
John.
should.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad. As just like any sports fan, you just hate to see a city losing their team.
Yeah. When they didn't have to.
But
Yeah. Yeah. No.
yeah, this is crazy. Are they? I haven't looked. Are they going to be still called the Oakland A's?
No.
That
No. They're just gonna be called the A's. No affiliation. So
so they're like
it'll just be the A's.
like
Like,
the football team if there was no Washington. I want or like the did Cleveland ever go? They're Guardians now, but before they were the Indians. But did they ever? Were they just a like a neutral team?
I don't think so. I don't there was spiders a long time ago.
Yeah, is it Cleveland? Yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, it's just gonna be called the A's.
Just the
Gonna be hard
A's.
for like monetizing and marketing and coming out
Yeah.
with shirts
Right? Just
saying,
A's. Yeah. I don't know
yeah.
what I don't I think the same color, right? Green and gold and I think. I don't
I
think
mean,
they're
if they
gonna
didn't do
change
that,
color schemes.
that'd be
I know that'd be bad.
crazy.
Right. But
That'd
they'll
be
probably
really
get more
bad.
fans. They'll get more fans in Sacramento, right? I mean, the thing,
Yeah.
I think they said they're going to hold
I mean,
14,000.
yeah, the River Cats, the is it the West Sacramento River Cats, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice stadium. I know people who grew up in Sacramento, went to a bunch of games there, so it's sad. Like we
Hmm.
said, you just hate
Yeah.
to see teams losing the city losing a team. as personal from Seattle losing a team, but we're gonna get
Right.
a basketball team.
It's coming. A couple
It's
of years,
coming.
I guess. It's coming.
Yeah, it's if they don't, then I probably will not be following basketball anymore. They just make so much money.
Yeah, it's
And
ridiculous.
like they could sell their season tickets at whatever price they wanted, and people will buy them at whatever the price is.
First couple of years for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I want to talk about is how do you feel about Mitch Garver? What are your overall thoughts?
I love Mitch Garver.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of baseball fans are just too hard on guys sometimes. They
Yeah.
don't understand the transition of coming to a new team, especially coming to a different ballpark too. I mean, you can't expect,
Yeah. You can't expect him to be Mitch Garver, the Texas Rangers,
yeah.
with that lineup hitting indoors and just everything worked for them last year
Hmm.
to win the World Series. I mean, everybody had good years. And look at this year. They like kind of regressed to kind of what they were and have been, and they didn't make the playoffs. I mean,
They
Garver
were
had
pretty
it.
injured. I'll
Yeah,
say
that's
that.
true
I think
too.
they're gonna be a
Yeah,
lot better next year.
true. I mean, if
Like
they're pitching, yeah. But
Jung was
I mean,
out, Carter.
if DeGrom and this, Rocker, Kumar Rocker, if they stay healthy, whew, that could be interesting. And Scherzer wants to come back, but I don't know what he has. But Evaldi's still pretty good. Yeah, if those guys can get back in Seager and Semyon, yeah. Anyway, Garver struggled and he knew it, and he owned it, and that's what I like about him. He didn't shy away from it or make excuses. He said, "This
Mm,
is the
great
worst
point.
year I've ever had, and it's on me. I don't. It's just I'm just been terrible, you know." And nobody saw it coming, and but he kept working. He kept a good attitude about it. He didn't let him. He didn't shy away from teammates or just go into a hole and you couldn't find him or see him, but so he handled like a pro. And I thought his catching was fine. I think he can be the backup catcher next year. Not necessarily a DH 5 days a week, but maybe he plays a few days a week and he'll be fine for that. But I also think, I mean, a guy who's had a track record has been good. Like you think that type of guy can bounce back from a bad year, right? Like if there's no track record and he hits 180, you're like, well, this guy's done. But even Garvey, you're like, you know what? That was just kind of an anomaly, and he'll figure some things out and be much better next year. That's kind of the hope with him. But yeah, again, total pro, and he was good attitude, awesome all year.
I'm gonna ask you a question about the rotation that we talked about. You talked about moving one of those guys. Hopefully,
Maybe I said maybe,
yeah. I said let's
maybe
put it
I don't know.
if you had to, and you know these guys personally, so hopefully they don't take offense to it. I doubt they'll ever hear this, but hopefully, maybe one day.
I'm gonna give him this link. You kidding me?
If
I'm emailing all this
if
stuff out to
if
these
you
guys.
who has the most trade value out of the starting five guys, and what is the return for them?
Um, I think the most value. I mean, if you want to just go by service time, it'd be Miller and Wu, right? If you're saying they're all kind of the same, all really good, um, those two guys you would say because of time. I think Logan's their best pitcher now. He's also arbitration eligible. So, you know, you can wait on those other guys. Same with Kirby too. Although he might be a super two. I think he's going to be arbitration eligible. Um, but if I don't worry about contracts, I would say Gilbert. Uh,
What do you think
that's
he's worth
that's
in the
what I would do.
return?
I think for his, being young, knock on wood, injury free, how he took a big step forward this year. I think you would have to get like two major league bats, you know, and maybe a prospect. Like I don't think you would get prospects. I think if they're going to trade a pitcher, it's for immediate help, immediate established major league bats, right?
Uh,
Not like it's not Jared Kelnick thing all over again where prospects and this guy and this and that. You're like, no, I want a guy who's probably been an all-star, right? I want somebody who has had multiple years of success and is still young and controllable because you don't want to give up Gilbert, who you have for 3 more years to get somebody where, it's a year or whatever, you got to pay free agent money. So I think it'd be controllable, and that's hard to do, right? I mean, controllable. Who wants to give up controllable, really good bats, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and
Like,
so,
yeah, I was thinking like Ketel Marte, but I doubt
oh man, what a career he's had in Arizona, right? Jeez.
he's very, I mean,
Um,
he's a very underrated player. I mean, now he's
yeah,
getting his flowers, but especially because what he was doing in the NLCS last year. But
yeah.
um, yeah, I still think
I
he's a
mean,
pretty good player.
really
He's
good,
definitely no,
really
he's a
good.
very good player. What am I saying? Yeah,
Yeah, very
he's a
good.
great, just great contact guy. Just puts the ball in
Mhm,
play and
exactly.
great defensively too.
So that's what I think that they would need to get, and that's hard. I mean, you look at trading partners like the teams that need it, like an Orioles need pitching, and they've got a lot of young talent, right? So something like that would make sense, right? Because they could give up some of their guys to get an ace, and he'd be their ace there. Um, Depending if they signed Corbin Burns or not.
How do you
And
think Mariners
the
would?
Red Sox would be another one. This Tristan Cassis, this first baseman, you know, there's a
Yeah,
lot of interest.
that's
That's something that because they need pitching and there'd probably be more too. Cassis
oh
is
yeah,
something else. Then they can move Devers to first because he's not great at third. But anyway, I don't
yeah.
know.
He's built like a first baseman.
Yeah, boy, can he hit though. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh, phenomenal. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents on that. Hopefully they don't trade any of them. But if they do, again, established major league bats.
Because when I was my argument to all my friends last year when they traded like Kellenic and those other guys and just the hitters, I was like, if you could, I'd rather extend the guys, the rotation we have now, and
Yeah.
just get those guys because they would probably have to pay. Kellenic would probably want. I mean, I think he was ARB eligible. He's eligible this year, so but he wouldn't want to probably. And I don't.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want? He wasn't going to stay in Seattle. He had bad.
No,
It was
it
tainted.
wasn't working. Yeah. He had to
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
and I think it was best for him. But yeah, I just people. I mean, I liked him at first, and then I didn't,
At first, and then I didn't.
and then I
Yeah.
didn't because he was. There are a lot of issues mentally with him that I didn't appreciate, and I don't
Mhm.
think it was. I mean, he's still young for a big leaguer, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
learning curves that come with playing professional baseball and how to handle yourself.
And he's
Um,
still learning. I mean, he went through some things in Atlanta this year too. Got off to a great start
mhm.
and then, doesn't play anymore. So he's learning. There's still a chance. So, I mean, he was
uh,
number one overall prospect. So there's still a lot of talent in there. So we'll see.
yeah, I mean, pretty that I was just saying it's not irrelevant, or there's no. I guess irrelevant is where the Cano trade. I mean, they got Diaz. The Mets got Diaz, but that's pretty much it. I feel like because they got what Justice Sheffield in that trade.
Sheffield. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just it
It,
was just a meaningless trade. I mean,
that trade was good from the Mariners' perspective to get rid of Cano's money.
oh yeah, that
That's
was
all it did. You got nothing back. County gave you nothing. But Jay Bruce lasted a few weeks. There was some reliever, I think. I mean, it's just nothing back. So, and the Mets got a few good years out of Diaz, and they had to eat the money. So, you know, you could say it kind of worked out for both, but it was just nothing back.
so
So,
your job as you would say you're kind of a sports anchor. Who are your I never asked you this, but who are your guys that when you were starting out with journalism and doing reporting, who are your guys that you like to look up to or like to model your game or just enjoyed watching?
um, I was a big like this was before your time when Sports Center was big, and it was like the show, right? There wasn't a lot of other alternatives. CNN tried, but there wasn't a lot of other cable options. So I was a big Sports Center fan. I liked a lot, like Chris Berman. I really enjoyed his shtick
Back.
at the beginning. Like I don't watch him now, but
Yeah.
his nicknames and his shtick at the beginning, I enjoyed. Dan Patrick, I liked a lot. Bob Lee, I liked the guy. He was a real pro. I liked him. Bob Costas was really, I think, really good. You watch him in the Olympics and hosting. I think he does a really good job. Al Michaels was really cool. I remember I got to work as a runner on uh, uh, what's it, the Santa Anita, I think, a horse race that he was doing for ABC, and I got to meet him and be a runner, and he
That's
was a nice
cool.
guy. I liked him. Yeah. So these guys I kind of liked more so than like play-by-play guys. I never really aspired to be a play-by-play guy. I wanted to be more of the host, reporter, interview type. So those are the kind of guys that I liked watching. Um, yeah. So it was cool. Yeah. I mean, me and my roommates called it. I mean, Sunday nights, Sunday, I think it was like uh
It was John Miller and Joe
8
Morgan
o'clock.
weren't were they
Oh, they
doing?
were, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. They were
that's
there. I
the
like that.
greatest.
That's a good, yeah.
I think those
It's
two were the best to ever do it in
but
baseball.
sports, yeah, Sports Center Sunday nights was an hour and it recap everything. Because before, that's kind of it for your highlights. If you wanted all Major League Baseball, all other NBA, all stuff, that was kind of it to watch, not like now. So
I
you'd
still think
watch
ESPN disrespects baseball and showing
a little bit.
such little highlights during games
Yeah. Yeah.
that
And,
yeah, like, I was watching. They don't give show.
I know. And too many Yankees Red Sox games. It's like, that's
Yeah,
enough. We don't care anymore. So,
yeah, and it's just.
yeah.
I mean, we could. I mean, ESPN's doing a lot of crazy things right now. Went. They just hired Shams for their NBA senior insider role. Adrian Wojnarowski was
Yeah.
doing it for a while, and he stepped down. And they got rid of Zach Lowe, who I really like, one of the NBA insiders.
Hmm.
And they just hired Cam Newton to be on First Take
Is
too.
that right? Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Oh, that's going to be interesting.
yeah,
In streaming, it's just a different type of world with cable and stuff. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It is. I mean, everything's now is just 6 to 8 second video or like 10-second
Yeah.
videos with headlines that aren't even relevant to actually what you're watching.
Exactly. All right, I had to get the kiddies off. We're gonna go bowling today. Like I said, they're off today, so I'm gonna try it.
Awesome.
Try to
Well, thanks so much for your
gotta
time.
loosen it up, man. Get
Yeah.
the shoulder. I don't
You
bowl
gonna
very
have
often,
that
so I gotta
you
get
gotta do that
loose.
who is that guy? Why am I blanking on his name? The bowler who had that viral celebration.
Oh gosh, it wasn't Pete Weber, was it? Yeah. Who are you? Like I am.
Yeah.
That's right. Was it Pete Weber or no? That was
Uh
great. He gets the strike and he's just, who am I? Or who are you? Or
who
what is
are
it?
you?
I am. Who is, what was that? That was fantastic, man.
Yeah, Pete
It was Pete
Weber.
Weber.
He goes, "Who do you think you are?"
I am. Yeah, that'll be me. Yeah, when I beat my 16-year-old daughter and her friends, I'll get in their grill and I'll say that. Who do you think you are?
Uh,
I am.
the one thing they still can't beat you at.
I hope not.
Yeah.
We'll
All right. Well,
try.
thanks again.
You bet, man.
Appreciate. Always great talking.
You bet we'll do it maybe spring once
Yeah.
they've made all their roster moves and we'll see kind of how the team's going to look at different. It's going to be different, right? A lot of new faces, but it should be an
I'm gonna
exciting time. I'm hoping, man.
I'm gonna go
Come
random
on.
guess. I'm gonna go
Oh.
Bregman at third and
Ooh, the
Josh Bell at
Astro.
first.
Okay. Okay. Not bad.
We're not getting Alonso. I'm just gonna be
No.
realistic, but
No.
take
Soto
him.
in right field.
Yeah, exactly.
Doubtful.
That
Funny.
would be the life. All right, thanks, Brad.
You bet, man. Talk soon.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, man.